with a conversation, public hearing about two FY24 tax classification hearing. If you'd like to come up and join us at the table.
Sure.
I know you've provided us with some documents.
See what that's for you. Thank you.
Just for the public, we have tonight a public hearing on FY 2024 tax classification. And we have with us tonight the representative from the assessors, who is Jesse, and your last name is?
Warrant.
Warren, of course. Yeah, okay, Jesse Warren, and thanking him for being here. And would you walk us through the specifics on the tax classification?
Absolutely. So there's a few options that the select board has to vote on every year. It can ultimately affect what the tax rate is and who pays what portion of it within the community.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest one would be adopting the residential factor. So what this basically means is historically Barre has had a residential factor of 1,
Mm-hmm.
which means that both commercial and industrial and residential properties all pay the same tax rate.
Right.
And this has worked out very, very well for us because as you can see on the income from the handout that I gave you, Barry's income this last year was just over 90% residential.
Yep.
With the rest being commercial and industrial.
Mm-hmm.
It is possible to shift a percentage of that tax burden from the residential body to the commercial and industrial body, which is great if you have a very large commercial or industrial income presence in the town. But Barre doesn't really have that. So the Board of Assessors has always recommended maintaining a residential factor of 1,
Mm-hmm.
and keeping the tax rate uniform.
Yeah.
Beyond that, there are 3 different exemptions that can be adopted by the town as well. The first of those is the open space discount. What this would be is it would be a shift of 25% of the taxable, the tax levy burden from residential class to, from open space to the residential class. And this doesn't really apply to Barre because Barre doesn't have any property classified as open space. Basically anything that would be open space is chapter land, chapter 61, 61A, 61B. So the Board of Assessors recommends not adopting this discount just because there's nothing to apply it to. It's all
Okay.
chapter land.
Okay.
Also, if at any point anyone has any questions about anything that I'm talking about, please feel free to stop me.
Okay.
And ask. The second option is applying a residential exemption. This was actually 20% in years prior, but due to the Municipal Modernization Act, the shift can now go up to 35% of the total taxes owed by owner-occupied residential properties. What this does is, if you were to adopt it, it would shift up to 35% of the tax burden from owner-occupied homes to properties such as vacation homes, apartment buildings, residential areas that aren't owner-occupied. And this is ideal for communities such as Truro or Nantucket, where there's a big tourist presence.
Right.
Because Barre is almost overwhelmingly, entirely owner-occupied, the Board of Assessors recommends not adopting this exemption.
Mm-hmm.
It just wouldn't make sense for our community. And the last one is called a small commercial exemption. And this would be an exemption for up to 10% of the value of the commercial parcels occupied by businesses with an average annual employment of not more than 10 people during the previous calendar year, and with an assessed value of less than $1 million for the last calendar year. The Board of Assessors recommends not adopting this exemption for 2 reasons. The first being, well, actually there's 3. The first of the 3 reasons being, if a building houses multiple businesses like we see on Exchange Street,
Mm-hmm.
every single one of those businesses would need to be eligible for
Okay.
any of them to get the benefit.
Mm-hmm.
The second reason is that the owner of the property, not the owner of the business, would be the one who gets this exemption.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And the third one would be that if this exemption were granted, it would shift the tax burden from the commercial income sector to the industrial sector
Okay.
of our tax base,
Mhm.
which, because it's so small, would put an unhealthy burden on that body. So the Board of Assessors recommends not adopting that exemption.
Okay. So the recommendations are to vote to adopt a single tax rate, as you explained, to vote no to adopt the open space discount, to vote no to adopt the residential exemption, and to vote no to adopt the small commercial exemption.
That is correct.
Okay. Questions for Jess? I mean, I know this is what we've done in the past, but some people may have questions. John, any questions?
No, I mean, it's one of those things, it seems disappointing that none of those will work, but it makes sense why all of those don't really fit into these situations, so.
Yeah.
um,
You all set? Okay, I would ask the board then to look at those recommendations and to someone to make a motion to recommend those particular situations as presented by Jess Warren, because he represents the Board of Assessors this evening. And obviously, we would read into the record the specific votes, like the no vote and the yes votes and so forth.
Well, I would move to adopt a single tax rate.
We have a motion made, we have second?
Second.
A motion made and
Yep.
seconded to vote to adopt a single tax rate, both for residential and commercial properties, and that would be following the recommendation of the Board of Assessors. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That looks like a unanimous vote.
I would move to not adopt the open space discount.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to vote no on the adoption of an open space discount. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I would vote to not adopt the residential exemption.
We have
Second.
a motion made and seconded to not to adopt the residential exemption. We would need a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Looks like a unanimous vote.
I would move to not adopt the small commercial exemption.
Motion made to not to adopt the small commercial exemption as recommended by the Board of Assessors. We have a second?
Second on
We have a motion made and seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It looks like we have a tax rate.
Yep.
I mean,
So-
subject to the Department of Revenue, I mean.
Right, there are just a couple last
Okay.
items to dot involving establishing the overlay and a couple other things that Jean and I have to enter in. So it'll probably be close to that. I don't know if it'll be exactly 1371, but.
Mhm.
it'll
That's
be-
a lucky number, anyway, 1371.
Okay.
Okay, if you need any other information from us, don't hesitate to return to give us some insight into what that might be. Thank you so much, Jesse.
Thanks.
Appreciate your work.
Thank you, Jesse.
Okay, just moving right along. I think we may have someone here representing somebody who wants us to transfer a liquor license. Okay, you are so lucky, we are ahead, so come on up and we can talk about the transfer of a liquor license. Welcome to Barre.
Good evening.
I guess you are, let's put it, engaging in a real challenge. Good for you. So what you're asking is to transfer the license from Dominic's Inc., DBA, the Barre Mill Restaurant, to Mile 61 Tavern under the auspices of Jason, I don't want to ruin your last name.
I'm used to it. Do your best.
Okay,
It's Pietrzak.
Peach, okay, thank you, the new manager.
Pietrzak.
Thank you, Jason, for the help. Okay, I don't know if you'd like to just chat a little bit about your business or anything, or otherwise we would be ready to consider the motion and make a judgment to transfer that license.
Yeah, I mean, we're excited to be part of the town. We live right in North Brookfield, and it's a new venture for us, and we've been spending a lot of time in the town recently, and we're getting a lot of positive feedback. People seem very, very friendly, and
Good.
so we're excited.
We just got to get them to eat a lot more.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
The food's good, I guess, they'll eat it.
That's right.
yes, I know.
It's gotta be good.
Pretty simple.
All I can say is I just admire anybody who's, engaged in starting a new business, because that's always a challenge, and, you just look ahead and you just hope like heck it's the right decision, and all the things that you sacrificed to get here, we appreciate. So could we have a motion?
Yep. I would move to approve the transfer of license from Dominic's Inc., doing business as Barre Mill Restaurant, to Mile 61 Tavern. Jason Pietrzak is the manager.
Who's the manager? Okay, and we have a motion made,
Second motion.
motion made and seconded, and those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. Sandy, can you just walk them through the time frame? The state has to do what the state has to do, and
once you sign that you approved it tonight, I fax everything over to the ABCC in the morning. And that takes about 2 weeks before they actually get back. If they have questions, they'll contact you or us, because they have all your information. So everything will get faxed over.
Okay, I just wanted to.
I mean, not faxed, I'm sorry, scanned
Yeah.
in.
I just want to make one point in the packet that we had brought you, our license application. The only thing missing, I think, was the actual advertisement of this meeting.
Yeah, I have that.
I just want to make sure it got it.
Yeah, yeah, I have that.
Okay,
When
so.
are you expecting to open? Do you have a date set, or roughly?
Well, we're gonna get this out of the way, but still doing a lot of cosmetics to the building.
Yeah.
It was outdated,
Oh,
older.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So everybody agrees.
Oh, yeah.
So we've been in there painting and
I know, you move one thing and it's 3 more things to do.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it has quite a history. I've heard you've unearthed some interesting articles or artifacts, shall
Yeah.
we say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
and
been the
then,
fun part.
Luckily, the pool company there, Caruso.
J.C. Pool, yeah.
Yeah, they've been friendly and talking with us.
Yeah.
giving us some history.
Well, they have the history for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we wish you well, and like we begin to talk on the board, we go after the first of the year. So hopefully it'll be after the first of the year, you'll be able to have everything you need and set and go, and we wish you well. And, you know, don't hesitate if there's something that the community, or we can do, help, we'll be happy to do it. We have been successful in getting, you know, those transfers done pretty quickly, and we even hand deliver. Well, I mean, because it's important, you need to open and you need that, and if so, any way we can help, we will certainly do that.
We appreciate that.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay. We may as well, we're not due to do the proposed town administrator bylaw until 7 PM.
Correct.
So we'll wait on that
Correct.
in case someone is coming just for that purpose. Let's move, if we could, you want to do public comment, Sam? I think you said you had public comment?
Yeah, that's.
Well, we'll go right back to public comment, just,
Yeah, that's good. Well, I have a couple of things. And after I ask you these things, I hope that you can figure out one way or another to make a motion, because it's something that needs to be done quickly. So hopefully you'll say, oh, this is important, you should make a motion.
we'll see.
Number one, we're gonna have a new town administrator, Clark County. And just by coming here, she's gonna find a big hill of information that she doesn't know.
Mhm.
And I would recommend, in order to make her feel comfortable and wanted, that you do whatever you need to do and find someone to pick up Greg Valuekonis's job for a period of time,
Mhm.
just so that she can get over the hump.
Mhm.
Sometimes when people have a hump and all of a sudden there's no help,
Mhm.
they say, why do I want to be here?
Mhm. Well, I would just say to you that we've had this conversation amongst us and also with Greg. Greg has some suggestions and some people that he will be reaching out to. I know that we've reached out to at least one. We know we need some human resource support, and so we'll be working hopefully on that as well. So we agree that there needs to be help and assistance in the onboarding of this new person, and our failure to do so would be pretty stupid. We don't like to be stupid,
No.
because that would be our failure.
I would say a different word, maybe.
Okay, would be,
Illogical.
okay, illogical, inappropriate, and not a good idea.
Not
Okay,
really.
it'd be plain stupid, but anyway, that's okay.
Thank you. So I don't know how you
So-
go about
so-
making
so-
motions to get this
Well,
done.
we've already discussed this, so that's already,
So we don't need a formal
No.
vote? Okay. The other day, I was driving around towards Worcester, and there was a house being demolished.
Mhm.
I thought I saw DPW equipment, our DPW equipment, and maybe our gas being used, you know. and maybe a DPW truck. And I would think that that would be inappropriate, and if I see it, maybe millions of other people are gonna see it, and maybe someone will call. But has John, has anybody called you?
I have not heard about this.
And I don't know whether they called you, Maureen, I don't know about you, but
I got 9 calls.
But I happen to notice it in my speeding into Worcester, and if that happens, it doesn't give the folks who are running this town much confidence that they allow this to happen.
I was saying, was it just a truck, or were there excavation equipment?
There was an excavator, who owned the excavator, I don't know.
Excuse me, I just wanted to stop.
But there was a truck. And I thought it had a seal on it, or something. And it looks like one of those Barre trucks that you see in the DPW.
Okay,
I would hope that that wouldn't be the case.
okay.
And I don't know if anyone else wants to talk about that, but, and then you and I were at a DPW meeting, and we were all amazed as to that magic device that was in the middle of the table. But I called up Shannon and I asked her, I told her that I'd like to look at it, and she said it's not downloaded.
Yeah,
Now, I look at this piece of paper for this meeting, it says this meeting is being broadcast live and digitally recorded. And that's wonderful for this meeting. Maybe you could direct the DPW to say, if they can't, wait, let me finish, if they can't digitally record and have it live, their meeting, then they should come here until they can figure out how to work that magic machine.
well, I would just tell you that I've been working on the magic machines, and we have solicited the help and assistance of the technology department of the high school, which uses the Zoom platform, which is what we will be using in many of our smaller meetings. There's no question that this is probably the better venue for a lot of meetings, but obviously the room is not always available. So at any rate, I know I talked with Sandy last week about the fact that we have a trainer who will be coming in and working with Sandy, probably anybody on the board who's interested, but, people who are working on the planning board, so that everybody will have training, so that they understand how to use the equipment appropriately, how we can download it, and how we can archive it. Because we have responsibilities under, public meeting law to archive things properly. So, Sam, the scary thing is when you and I agree, like, about a whole lot of things right in a row, it's scary. But I do agree with what you're talking about. And we know that I do not have, nor does this board have, the ability or the authority to do what you would like us to do, which is to say to other elected boards or commissions over which we do not have authority, that you must do X. We can cajole, we can clap, we can be happy, whatever, but we've got a bylaw that hopefully supports us, but the bylaw is without, like, if you don't do this, this happens to you. So we know that maybe that's not the best bylaw that we could have put together. However, your comments and your criticisms are accurate and concerning, and I know that Mr. Urban, who's sitting back there, has the same comments and criticisms, and he's right too. But we continue to work on this between and amongst the other things that we are trying to put in place.
Thanks.
Well, wait a minute, Sam. Regarding that, what day was,
I can sit down.
okay, what day were you referring to? As far as, do you know exactly what day it was?
The truck?
The vehicle? Or?
I don't recall it. Maybe it was the weekend, maybe.
Oh, okay. Well, I got
I
calls.
thought it was the weekend.
Well, I get calls on Saturday. It sounds like the same thing. And it was not, in fact, town equipment at that job, but it was, in fact, a town DPW pickup truck or utility body truck. It was there with, town plates on it, municipal plates. It was the town vehicle. Why it was there, I don't know. I can't tell you. I have no idea. I just, I got several calls, and here I am passing it
I mean,
around.
from other people around there, they see what's going on, and it just shows that someone doesn't respect anybody's authority or responsibility, and they'll do anything they want, and I suppose if they can do that, maybe I can have my driveway plowed by the DPW.
Well, one of the reasons why I was trying to help the personal use policy along is because of these things. You know, by the way of the law, the town, the select board is in charge of all real estate and personal property. And I don't know why anyone else would have the say in it, but chapter 40, section 3 says that.
Someone has to enforce it.
Well-
It's all real estate or personal property of the town, not by law or by vote of the town, placed in charge of any particular board, department, or officer shall be under the control of the selectmen. That's what it is.
The only concern that I have,
Maybe
that,
it's the town
the-
council.
yeah, after
They know what to do.
after some conversations with town council, the fact that the town of Barre sought to create a home rule petition, which was to go to the legislature and have voted a commission that would include the sewer department, the water department, and the DPW, and create a commission. And that commission is duly elected and has authority that we know is troubling and difficult to figure out who's in charge of what, but
The special act is silent on that. Isn't that correct, Greg? The special act is silent on real estate, personal property.
It
town.
is, yeah, it doesn't say anything about that.
so your point?
It's just that it's not the commission's decision. That's my point.
Well,
So what does town council say to?
well, we haven't brought that specific concern directly to town council. I mean, we've had conversations about what is the commission's responsibilities and obligations and what are the selectmen's duties and responsibilities. And there are many things that we cannot just unilaterally do. It has to be part of the commission's work. I mean, I would suspect that this is something, Greg, that I know you have looked into as well. And we are probably the only town around that has this particular special bylaw bylaw, legislation that was passed in 1980-something.
We're not the only, but there are few and becoming fewer.
Well, that's a good thing. But I mean, to have it rescinded is, I think, legislative work that we would have to do.
Yeah, first section would be town meeting,
Yeah,
and then submit it to the legislature, because the law requires the manner that you accept it is the manner that you unaccept it.
yeah.
So it's an identical path.
Okay, so you don't know what vehicle it was?
No, it's just.
Did somebody give you specifics on that?
Yeah, it was a red utility body truck
Okay,
with a black back.
okay.
I don't own my trucks.
I think we do, though, now that I have a
I don't
color.
own my trucks.
Okay. Okay, moving along.
Thank you.
All set, thank you. Okay, moving along, town administrator report?
Sure. I'm sure the board received email from the DOR, Department of Revenue, concerning free cash certification. I was a little bit surprised to see the number. It was negative $62,573. And I tried to have an understanding in terms of what could have resulted in that number. First of all, the town doesn't need to appropriate any money to make up that deficit. Free cash certification, you can spend a positive amount, but you don't need to make up any particular deficit. But I looked at the undesignated fund balance, which is the number at the end of the fiscal year, which reflects any revenues in excess of what we budgeted, and then any departmental turnbacks. And that number was really low. And what I mean by really low, it was only about 40% of what we collected in the previous year. It just means that we're being aggressive in terms of our budgeting. And as we become more aggressive, that number shrinks down. And also, there were less departmental turnbacks. I can't speak to why, but there would have been less departmental turnbacks on June 30th of 2023 than there were in the prior year. So I took a quick look and wanted to see kind of what this undesignated fund balance was if I go back and I look at 5 years. In the 5 years of history, it's about $875,000. give or take. And again, the undesignated fund balance was 472,000. So that's a pretty remarkable drop-off when you look at it. My thought is, you may want to have a meeting invite in the town accountant, so that she can speak to the board in terms of what her thoughts are in terms of why that number was so low, and what we might be able to do going forward to make corrective measures. But kind of, it's just a pretty, I won't say a common trend, but it's more of a trend that as budgeting becomes more difficult, the town becomes more aggressive in estimating its receipt revenues, and we get close to that number, and it means that there's not very much as a surplus. So it's not typically something that you can cure in one step, but it is something worth keeping an eye on. And like I said, I think a meeting with the town accountant would probably be a good first step.
Okay, there are no reimbursement issues as we had in the
No,
past?
no, because that, my understanding is that was the reason for
The big one, yeah.
the past problem. It was just the fact that end of year surplus, for lack of a better word, was substantially smaller than what we've seen in the past.
Past.
And that causes me some concern, because going forward, we're gonna continue to need to thoroughly utilize all available revenues. It's not like we can pull up and decide that we're not gonna have revenues available, but we will not be able to spend, obviously, a negative free cash balance.
No.
So my thought is, in kind of talking a little bit bigger with the town meeting coming up, is to take any surpluses that we have. We do have some money that we carried going forward for contract settlements, and we want to be able to utilize that money and put it into, say, the Finance Committee reserve account,
Right.
so that if there are any budgetary issues at the end of this fiscal year, we have money to be able to solve those. Questions?
There was some comment.
Yeah, I believe historically, one of the reasons we had a higher free cash number was due to tax title takings. And I believe with the constant change in the treasurer's office, that probably impacted that.
Probably,
So
right.
that may be a big piece of the reduction in your free cash at the end of the fiscal year.
I know we've been more aggressive since the change of the guard there, and we've got 2 or 3 tax takings that we've accomplished this year, thanks to their hard work. One thing, during COVID, the courts were pretty much standing still, and so I agree with you, that's a piece of it, but we budget so tightly that it's, you just don't have a lot of flex.
Yeah, there, like I said, if I could point to the fact that we had an amount that we had borrowed, or an amount from a state grant that we had utilized and not borrowed money before the end of the year, such as Chapter 90 in the past, I could point to that.
Yeah, right.
But I can't really see what it is, which
I would suspect with the police chief change of the guard, that probably was a piece of money.
Right.
And then having to do some overtime stuff to fill that gap for a while, as well as pay a 6-month severance.
Yeah, and I know that last June, when I was here, we had a very lengthy list of interdepartmental transfers to balance out the
Yeah,
budget
right.
for the end of the fiscal year. And at that time, it struck me that it was large, but typically, without those transfers, those are monies that would close out as being a surplus. And so I think it's important going forward that departments understand that they should not be overspending their accounts, that they should be staying within their budget, because at the end of the fiscal year, there may not be available monies to be able to transfer to cover any particular deficit. And I think with the new town administrator coming on board, I can include that in the budget memo that goes out to departments,
Right.
that they need to be diligent in terms of sticking to their budget and not overexpending. And if they do overexpend, they need to notify the board of select board
ASAP.
and the town administrator and get your permission before they start spending what they don't have.
Yeah. Matt?
If I'm correct, that's also on the general ledger that the accountant leaves with the warrant
Yeah.
each time, so you can see the percent that is spent to date.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's where I used to catch it.
Yeah.
You can see, oh, you're at 70%, you're only 2 months into the year,
Yeah.
let's figure
Well,
out what's going on.
yeah.
You know,
Well,
different things like that.
Yeah.
Well, and I just want to make sure the enterprise funds, we had a lot of water issues last year, and we were way overexpended in overtime in DPW, or I should say water sewer, and so we just want to make sure that those revolving accounts are accessed.
Yeah, and the water and sewer retained earnings are high.
Very high.
But they're not as high as they were a year ago, because I recall One of them, let's see, water earnings, sewer retained earnings a year ago were 808,000. This year sewer retained earnings 859,000,
Yeah.
which means that they didn't spend a lot of their money that they had budgeted. And then water retained earnings a year ago was 747,500, and they're at 755,513, about the same. But again, that's reflective of the fact that if they get a budget that is voted at town meeting, they don't spend a lot of it, all that money stays in that bucket.
Yeah.
And that's what that reflects.
Okay. No good news.
No,
Okay. Okay, moving right along. Select board reports,
Yep.
John?
A few things. So I was able to meet with CMRPC, our local, our regional planning organization, regarding the community block development program for South Barre. We would ultimately like to put together a public hearing for a public update on what's been going on with that in the third week of January, whether that's at the select board meeting or if we want to have a separate night where we, use like the senior center or something along those lines. So that's something we would want to put together, get the board's opinion on how to
Okay.
best approach that. If you guys have any thoughts on that? Whether to do it at a select board meeting or to, do it at the senior center closer to South Barre on a separate night
Yeah, I would think maybe to do it, yeah,
separately.
yeah.
Yeah, so, so we could pick, just perhaps like Wednesday of that week or Tuesday of that week,
Okay.
something along those lines. So I'll talk
Do you-
with
do you-
Sandy more.
Do you expect that we could garner some people interested?
I would think so. I
I
mean,
hope
it's, a substantial opportunity to get funding for South Barre, for some of the infrastructure there.
We should talk with our gentleman that's going to be opening that facility right down in the
Yeah,
center of that. That would be great if we could hold it there.
if they're open, yeah.
Yeah, if they're open. I don't know how
We
soon.
would need the camera set up for
Yeah.
the public hearing
Yeah.
aspect.
Yeah,
And then, along with that, there is a small chunk of that funding that was set aside originally of what we currently have for a CBDG grant, which is just for planning purposes, to do a ADA compliance study for the town. Obviously, we received funding for that and did that study about a year ago. So that funding, we're hoping, it comes down to the host community type of situation, because we're receiving our CBDG through a different community. So we're hoping to repurpose that to do what they call a blight study. It's kind of an antiquated term for it. And if you can designate certain areas as that, then you're eligible to receive actual infrastructure funding
yeah,
for those areas for the next 10 years.
sounds good.
So there's a couple areas that might qualify for that we would potentially be able to use that funding to get that designation. And ultimately, if the engineering report comes back that we can, then it would take the select board approving that designation. So that's something we would be able to determine, if the funding works out properly for that study should happen through the spring. And then we would be able to put together actual shovel-ready projects, hopefully for, 2025, and potentially get in the next round of block grant funding. So that's the big update with the CBDG grant. As far as other grants, we'll be working with a different group at CMRPC to try and understand more about our hazard mitigation plan that's expiring, and potentially trails and other things like that. On the 30th, I'll be meeting with them. I was also able to attend a Worcester County Highway Association meeting where we learned that there is a department in the state that will come out and do basically the same thing, a review of different departments, whether it's the fire station, DPW, for any OSHA issues that might come up. The benefit of calling them and asking them to do it, we would still be required to take care of anything that is hazardous, which is good for the people we have working for us. And it does not count as a first strike like it would if there was an incident that brought them out.
Now, is that a group that would also be looking at PSAF and so forth, the fire department's equipment?
I'm not sure that OSHA covers that.
My only
Because-
concern is, we could be sorry we asked.
Yeah. But anything that they bring up that is critical for us to fix is a critical hazard for our employees.
Yeah.
And we can also be very specific in what we ask them to look for. If they see anything obvious, they have to report it. But, if we're just asking them to look for hazards at the highway, barn,
Well, if they, yeah, I mean,
Then
if
they'll
they take a
give-
look at that fire station, they're gonna tell you, that we got some hazardous situations, it's pretty tough shape.
So they would give a list, and there's only the things that are over a certain threshold of danger that we would be required to do it. There's also options to get private consultants to do it, but that costs money, where this would be free. So a private consultant, they wouldn't make us do anything. We don't.
Right.
And the other benefit of inviting them to do this before there's a hazard, before there's an issue where someone gets injured, no one's gotten injured, and we fix it before someone
Yeah.
gets injured. And two, the report that comes out of it isn't published for the entire state to see like it is if there's an injury first. So there's some benefits to that we should be considering and perhaps bringing up at the next, if we want to do it for DPW, we should talk at the DPW commission, otherwise just speaking with department heads for different departments.
Okay.
But there was also a meteorologist at the convention, so it was very informative. We're expecting a mild winter until the third week of January, and then everything to flip like it's 2014 again.
Oh,
So
something to look forward to.
should be interesting.
That wasn't a good one.
Yeah. So yeah,
Okay,
expect that sometime around the third week of January,
really? Okay. Well,
assuming they're right. They said their best report comes out after the winter, so.
Mark?
Yeah, a couple things I was looking at here was I'd like to have some discussion in the future for, I don't know if I invite the fire chief in or whatever, but the motor vehicle walkouts we're doing, the fire department is doing, it's the police department declined on doing, they don't do those anymore.
I know that I was ignorant, and you said motor vehicle walkouts, I was in, what is he talking about?
Yeah.
Just for the public,
Yeah,
could you
motor vehicle
explain?
walkouts when you leave your keys in the
Okay,
car.
yeah, my car won't even be able to talk to me and say, you left your keys in the car. But, so we're talking about somebody locks their keys in the car
Right.
in front of the restaurant. and-
Right,
and-
anywhere in town.
And so they
and-
call the
They
911?
call, they call dispatch, and here comes the fire department with our engine, and sometimes an ambulance with it, which I think it's a bit extreme to, when you're paying $700,000 for a fire truck rolling all those wheels to unlock a car, when the police have actually declined on it because of safety, number one, and liability, because of the new cars with the side airbags and things like that, could blow in their face. And I spoke with the chief of police, and he said he declined doing that. He thought for liability reasons. I don't know why the fire department would be immune to the same type of pitfalls with that.
Oh, that's probably a conversation. Greg, you might be able to just chat with the chief of police and the chief, or acting chief at this point, because our chief is still deployed, so. Just a question about how many, how much do they do with this stuff? This is all new news to me that they provided that service.
Honestly, I thought that fire departments and police departments couldn't do that anymore from some state reason, but that was
Yeah.
just, some vague understanding that I had. It's not something I've looked into in any way.
Well, I mean, with the cars, the way they are now, they're
Mhm.
so, everything's so electronic.
Right,
And
true.
And, it's a liability thing if, town could get sued if you scratch the car. You
Mhm.
don't want to pay to,
Mhm.
paint the whole side of the car because, I don't know, it's just, I don't think, when you're towing out a whole department to do a motor vehicle lockout, I think it's a bit extreme.
When you say
Yeah,
tone out the whole department, what does that mean?
Well,
I mean, the tones go off like there's a fire?
Any one of the, or all of, people in the department could possibly show up to do that one
Really?
call.
Wow, that seems irrational. I can't
It
believe.
does, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I can't believe that the fire chief would have done that, but, okay, we can certainly look into it, because it seems like something that we shouldn't do.
Yeah, I don't know
believe
that that's a
it's
common practice. I mean, even, I think it was 2012, I locked the keys in my car at a prom, and, they told me to call AAA. They
That's
weren't,
right.
but it
Tow
was,
company.
obviously wasn't in Barre.
Yeah, it seems that it's
It's
a bit
Westminster,
extreme
so
to
not
roll
too
them
far off.
big expensive wheels to go do a lockout.
Okay, anything else?
There's something else I want to talk about. It's regarding I spoke with Greg about it a little bit earlier, as far as the, of course, this is all rolled into the town administrative bylaw thing, but as far as POs and departmental purchasing, things like that, Greg, you have any suggestions on, how we should, like, with the new administrator, how we set that in motion?
So I think that when you meet with the town accountant, I think it's a good idea to explore a purchase order system. Your town administrator is your chief procurement officer, and she should have an opportunity to review purchasing requests for compliance with the law, but also to make sure that there's sufficient funding in the accounts, similar to what we just spoke about. But I really think that a town of the size of Barre, and the amount of money that we spend on items, purchase order system requiring the TA and the town accountant to sign off is really a good thing, and I'm sure the accountant can enlighten you in terms of
Yep.
the how we can accomplish
And
that.
I think the new town administrator brings a good skill set.
Yeah.
And working with the town accountant, I'm sure they can fashion a PO system that really makes sense.
Yeah, I know in some of the communities I worked, we had Munis,
Yeah.
and Munis was
We
quite-
couldn't afford
It was
Munis.
quite top-heavy,
Yeah.
and honestly, I spent an hour every day approving purchase orders. It was quite extensive.
Mhm.
I don't think we need that,
Mhm.
but we need some way of encumbering funds and knowing exactly what people have. Because again, I think part of the problem that we've had is people go ahead and spend, and then they get to the end of the fiscal year and they don't have money, but they know at the end, there's balances in other accounts that will bail them out.
Mhm.
And I think it's important to instill upon people that that's not gonna happen this fiscal year.
Well, obviously, the $60,000 plus of being, in deficit for free cash
Yeah.
is not a good operational strategy, for sure.
Well, and speaking with some other towns, selectmen and department heads from other towns, they all found it unusual for us to be reimbursing a department head for up to $7,400 in a certain year for purchases that's put on his or her own credit card, and that's what we do here.
That's what we've done doing forever, I think.
I don't know about that.
I don't know.
I don't think it's good practice.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, but that is part of that PO system that we could
Right,
certainly adjust.
exactly. Because essentially, whatever is bought, and the receipts are, in the possession and of who bought it, and technically they own it.
Well,
What's up, Matt?
Just a quick question, when you try to get into PO stuff, and I don't know, Greg, maybe you could help with this, is, does the lack of a credit rating affect your ability to have POs and actually purchase through these other vendors? And so that's why there's a lot of employees getting reimbursed, because that's their only way to actually make the purchase?
Because we don't have accounts.
Because we're not getting a quote and then bringing a check and dropping a check on the counter or something. You can't use a PO with, oh, we promised to pay you next month.
yeah. I'm sure that's some of it. That's part and parcel of the school's issues as well.
Yeah, and I think the key thing on the purchase orders is to establish a dollar limit.
Yeah,
And we're not gonna do that, but your new TA should really put together a purchase policy
yeah.
about what requires or doesn't require a purchase order. Most of the stuff that Matt had referred to, some of it tends to be smaller dollars, but other things tend to be larger. You're right, I see that more here than in most communities I've worked in. And you may well explain the reasons why.
Could just be the way we've always done things, not.
Small town.
Yeah, so, and it's a good to.
I mean, I don't,
Bring
I'm
us to
not a
our-
fan of municipal credit cards.
Yeah,
So
Nobody
I'd
is.
rather kind of see the system that we have in
Yeah.
place right now,
Yeah.
where we're reimbursing someone versus having a credit card.
Yeah. Anything else, Mark?
No,
There's some-
that's it for now.
There's one other comment.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Ellen?
How would a purchasing order system work for like with my elections and stuff like that, when I'm trying to conduct my elections and ordering doing my programming through my vendors and that type of thing? That's all time sensitive, it's all, I can't wait for,
And so they wouldn't accept a purchase order scanned to them from us?
I'm sorry.
For example, that vendor wouldn't accept a purchase order, an official purchase order from the town of Barre to purchase whatever it is, ballots, and then send them to you for the town to pay for them upon receipt?
Generally, I just do everything myself. I get everything ready, I send it into the vendor as soon as I get it ready, so that there's no time lag on anything.
And so it's on your
There's-
credit card? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, no,
Oh.
they will invoice me.
Oh, okay.
They'll invoice me, but I don't have.
You're wondering about
I
the
had to
approval
get
process?
permission to then, to do a purchase order in order to even purchase it.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so what would that approval
What I'm
process
saying-
look like?
Well,
Those types of things
yeah.
are like,
So the approval process has to be fast enough so that you can, it can accommodate your needs.
well, yeah.
I mean, it-
I usually do it, like, as soon as I get it ready to go, I hit the button, I send it, and it's gone.
Yeah,
So,
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, you can, discuss
but I'm
your
just
needs,
curious how that would
your
work.
needs with, because this, we would be putting together the purchase, order system. And obviously, when you need to have things, quickly, they're very time sensitive, you have a way to handle that.
Okay.
And it's not a surprise to the town administrator that you need that stuff.
Well, I mean,
And
like a
you can't
PO
sit on it.
number,
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, PO number.
like PO number more than, because you can get a PO
Yeah,
number
you get it from
quickly.
the accountant,
you know.
yeah.
But you're not gonna be waiting for the select board to meet,
No,
2
no,
weeks from
no.
now
Oh,
to,
gosh, no.
or anything like that.
Oh, no.
Okay, well, that's why I was just curious
Yeah.
how a purchasing order
Yeah,
system would
yeah.
work. If we're gonna have to request everything that we need to purchase, we're gonna need to ask permission for it.
No, you just write it down, and then you say, I need a purchase order number for this order. That's basically what would be required.
And we would just bring it to them and they would sign off on it, basically. It
Yeah.
wouldn't be like a whole
Right.
2-week
Yeah.
turnaround process.
Well, especially, this is such a small operation, it's pretty much, it's pretty easy to.
Yeah, I'm sure
do
that
it
we
quickly.
come up with some sort of, bottom line on the money as well. I mean, you're
Yeah.
buying $10, I mean, you don't need a purchase order for certain,
I'm sure there are a lot of towns that do it that we could model after, that,
Yeah.
have experience in having that quick turnaround and the efficiency, but also the accuracy for accountability for that.
And she's a registered or certified procurement officer, so she will come in with all the rules and regulations probably stamped on her, on her hand, because they're into it.
Yeah.
It's like Cheryl Duvall at Quadman, they're into it, they're purchase order people. So it works. Okay. So, moving along, so we're all set with reports. We have correspondence, just one individual requesting a sick leave extension. I think you took care of that, Greg?
No,
Under
it's, so I would
FMLA?
ask the board, if you approve, it's waived policy, Article 11 of the Personnel Handbook, which presently provides for, she could utilize up to 26 hours to care for a
Sick family
family member. She's requesting 78 hours. I don't have an issue with it,
Mhm.
but waiver of policy does require approval of the board, not something I can do on my own.
Yeah, I did read the document that was shared with you and thus shared with us,
Yeah.
and I would look for either further discussion or a motion.
Yeah, so just to be clear, just for anyone who doesn't, see this, the request is to use accrued sick time that's already been accrued. The only reason it's a request is because it's not for them specifically, but to take care of someone else. But it's not giving any additional sick time, it's just changing what the sick time is used for.
Correct, she's earned her time.
Yes, the time is, more than this time has been earned by this person.
It is recommended by her immediate supervisor as well,
It is,
yes.
and we just have that provision in the bylaw
Right.
that puts it back before the board.
So, any other questions or comments? Otherwise, we need a motion.
I would move to approve the, would this be called an exemption?
Yeah, a waiver of
Waive Article
policy.
Waiver of
17.
policy.
Article 17. So we have a motion made to waive Article 17 for the purposes of allowing accrued sick time to be utilized for a family member.
Second the motion.
We have a motion made and seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And with our thoughts of,
Oh, yeah.
Quick question, was that a bylaw reference or a policy reference when you
Good,
say Article 17?
good catch, it's policy.
Thank you.
okay. let's go-
With our best wishes for speedy
Yes,
recovery.
absolutely. Okay, can we go back to approval of meeting minutes and move on with those? November 6th, the a lot of work on your part, Sandy. In the last month, we've been meeting a lot of times. We have the November 6th meeting, those would be meeting minutes to be approved and released.
I move to approve the November 6th public session meeting minutes
As presented.
as presented.
We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to approve the public portion of the Monday, November 6th meeting minutes as presented. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to approve, not for release, the executive session meeting minutes from November 6th.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to approve the executive session meeting minutes for November 6th, not for release. I really can't ask you to make any modifications or changes or so forth, so as presented. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have another meeting minutes for a special select board meeting on November 13th. Those are very brief meeting minutes, but do we have a motion?
Yeah, John wasn't there, so I move to approve the special select board meeting minutes for the vote and sign of the special town meeting warrant.
I will second that motion made to approve the meeting minutes for the special select board meeting on November 13th, during which we had a discussion about the town warrant. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay, we have another executive session meeting on November 13th. We have meeting minutes before you, and those would not be for release.
I move to approve the November 13th, 2023 executive session meeting minutes not for release.
We have a motion made and seconded to approve the executive session meeting minutes for the special select board meeting on November 13th, 2023. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay, I guess we've got the correspondence, we've got the alcohol renewal. Now we're going to do annual license renewals, all right? So that's always a list. Okay, we have the list as presented by our associate, and I would look for a motion to do these by group. In other words, the motor vehicle license renewals for Class 2, White Valley Motors, Inc., Motor Specialties Company, for renewal for those two motor vehicle license renewal requests.
I move to approve the motor vehicle license renewal Class 2 for White Valley Motors, Inc. and Motor Specialties. Go.
You have a second?
Second. Bless you, Sam.
Motion made and seconded. Any further comments? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Going to Class 1 under motor vehicle license renewals for Higgins Energy Alternatives, Inc. Could we have a motion?
Move to approve the motor vehicle license renewal Class 1 for Higgins Energy Alternatives, Inc.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a
I'm sorry.
motion made and seconded for Class 1 motor vehicle license renewal for Higgins Energy Alternatives. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We now have the section in holder common victualers license. This, there are two institutions seeking this renewal, and we look for, to approve those in a list presented.
I move to approve the in-holder common victualers license for Barre Center for Buddhist Studies and the Jenkins Inn and Resort.
We have a motion made,
Second.
seconded, to approve the in-holder common victualers license for Barre Center for Buddhist Study and the Jenkins Inn and Restaurant. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, then we have a number of licenses just for a common victualers license. And we would need to approve, there's probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of those. And as presented, could we have a motion?
I move to approve the common victualers license for the Barre Art Center, Dunkin' Donuts, Red Tomato Pizza, Yummy Gardens Chinese Restaurant, Barre Post 2, AO, Marketplace on the Common, Quabbin Plaza Liquors, Wholesome Farmers Market, Barre Sportsman's Club, and Apple Green New England.
We have a motion made and
Second?
seconded to approve the common victualers request for renewal as stated in the document presented and read by our associate. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we then have the license renewal for entertainment and amusement. Entertainment and amusement, there are two that we need a motion on.
I move to approve the entertainment and amusement license renewals for Dunkin' Donuts and Red Tomato Pizza.
We have a motion made
Second.
and seconded to approve the entertainment and amusement license renewals for Dunkin' Donuts and Red Tomato Pizza. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, tell me,
What is the?
what is the
Is that
entertainment
because-
at Dunkin'
is that because
Donuts?
the TV's there?
TV.
Is that what?
Oh, it's because it's a
Just 'cause of
TV?
It's the TV.
Okay, now, we have
I
some,
know.
we have some eight groups that probably are late, or will be looking for
The liquor license have to be.
special. Got
By
it,
November 30th, it has to be November date.
Okay.
The common vics, actually December 31st is when they.
yeah, okay. I just didn't realize if, we have some restaurants that aren't on here, like,
Because I haven't gotten them yet.
Okay.
As I get them, they'll be on the
No
desk.
problem, I just wanted to make
sent
sure.
the reminder out Thursday.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're good
Just
with
get
that.
some done now, so we're not doing all of them at the same time.
Yeah, as they come in, I'll get them ready for the next meeting.
So we've got those all in place, great. Okay, then we have personnel, we have some wage authorization adjustments.
Did we want to do the alcohol license renewal?
Oh, I'm
Is that
sorry.
part of it?
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, yeah,
Yes.
sorry, I missed that group. We do have some alcohol license renewals that the board needs to act on, and we'll have a motion.
I move to approve the alcohol license renewals for Barre Post 2 Ale, Barre Sportsman Club, Marketplace on the Common, Quabbin Plaza Liquors, Red Tomato Pizza, the Barre Art Center, Wholesome Farmers Market, and Yummy Garden Chinese Restaurant.
We have a motion seconded.
I second.
We have a motion made and seconded to approve the alcohol license renewals as read into the minutes. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now, there's some here that aren't included, right?
Right.
Where is the Barre Art Center?
It, right in the corner here, it's right across the street from Jenkins. That house on the corner, that.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize they had activities there. Okay.
Yeah, she does paint, slip and paint.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, now we have two wage authorizations that have been recommended by the individuals in charge of those particular employees, and one of those is for Paula Barkis, and those recommendations are from the Assessors Board with data and information that you've had available to you for review.
Madam Chair, I also want to say down on the record that I also support the request as the personnel administrator. I think that the position is invaluable. You can see the individual wears 3 different hats and is integral to the organization. But moreover, if this person were to leave, we'd have a very large gap that we need to fill.
Okay,
And I think it's something that does need to be addressed.
okay. Could we have a motion on that wage authorization request for one employee named Paula Barkis?
I move to approve the wage authorization for Paula Barkis to Class 3, Step 8.
Okay, Class 3, Step 8, which I think brings her hourly rate to $22.95. We have a motion made and seconded to approve the increase in salary recommended by the Board of Assessors and other individual groups where this individual is assigned. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just a quick comment, there'll be no retroactive pay, so it's effective as of the date that
Okay.
it was approved.
My signature's on that. We also, from the Treasurer's Collector's Office, the employee's name is Kristen Thacker, and Krista is a current employee, and her present hourly rate is $22.30, and going to a proposed hourly salary of $22.84, and we would need approval.
Move to approve the wage authorization for Kristen Thacker, Assistant Treasurer Collector, to Class 6, Step 1.
Second?
We have a motion made and seconded to approve the recommended wage authorization, or the hourly rate increase as presented by the town treasurer. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I believe that brings us to old business or an adjournment, whatever, whichever.
Public hearing for the
Oh,
The 7
key,
o'clock public hearing.
Oh, that's right,
the actions coming before town meeting.
that's right, we need that. Good, we got a lot of time for that then. Okay, I think you probably could spend time walking us through some of the specifics there, Greg?
Absolutely, Madam Chair. So the first one is the proposed town administrator bylaw, which will, if anyone is looking for a copy, is behind me on the credenza. Article number 4 of the town meeting provides establishing a new Chapter 70 of the town administrator bylaw.
Mm-hmm.
The bylaw proposed is substantially similar to what was presented and tabled at the June town meeting. And there is some new language that's been inserted. It's underlined in the document. And I'll just go through those quickly. What they are is under the appointment and annual review and other activities, the words enter into an employment agreement is included so that the sentence reads, the select board shall appoint and enter into an employment agreement with the town administrator for a term of more than 3 years. So again, that language is consistent with state statute, Chapter 41, Section 108N, that gives the board the authority to enter into a written contract with a chief administrative officer, and that's what the language has been updated to show. If we go down further, under Section 70-2, powers and duties, subsection D, the words classification and compensation have been added. It provides a little bit more clarity in terms of what plan the town administrator is going to prepare, maintain, and keep up, so that it will read, he or she shall prepare, maintain, and keep current a classification and compensation plan establishing personnel staffing requirements for each town agency. So again, it's a matter of clarity. Under same section, paragraph E, the words finance committee have been included. So it provides that the town administrator will attend all regular and special meetings of the Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee. And it's, again, just a matter of recognizing the fact they think that you want to have the town administrator attending and participating in all the Finance Committee meetings going forward. Sections N, O, P, and Q show strikeout language, and all of the language that's been removed references the regional school district. So there was comments made at the town meeting back in June that the individuals were confused about why the town administrator bylaw would reference the regional school district. Actually, it was referencing it to prove that the town administrator would have no role overseeing various aspects of the regional school district. But in the interest of clarity, those languages have all been stricken from the bylaw that's going before town meeting. On the third page, Chapter 70-3, acting and interim town administrator. So the language has been added to distinguish between an acting town administrator, which is someone that's filling a temporary absence, and an interim town administrator, which is what I'm doing, which is a interim position pending the appointment of a permanent town administrator. So in the introductory language, the word interim has been added. And then under section B, vacancy, the word pending and interim have both been inserted so that the section would read, any vacancy in the office of town administrator shall be filled as soon as possible by the select board, but pending such permanent appointment, the board shall designate a qualified town officer or employee or other qualified individual to perform the duties of a town administrator on an interim basis. And then in the next section, paragraph C, powers and duties, the word temporary has been removed and the word interim has been inserted. So it would read, the powers of the interim or acting town administrator, subsection B above, shall be limited to matters not admitting of delay and shall include authority to make appointments or designations to to the town office or employment to the extent conditions, same conditions as the town administrator, except for those positions reporting directly to the town administrator, will only be an acting appointment or designation be made. And again, it provides additional clarity. And then lastly, in section 70-4, removal and suspension, in paragraph number 2, the word good has been removed, and it just simply states that after the probationary period, the town administrator shall not be dismissed except for inefficiency, incapacity, conduct unbecoming the office, insubordination, or other cause. I think the word good and just cause are a very high legal standard that need to be achieved, and the intent of this is to create a document that provides clarity, not something that provides confusion and gives people an opportunity to really dispute the process. And then finally, under paragraph D, the language that's been removed says that the town administrator shall continue to receive his full salary until 30 days following the date of final approval has become effective. So since the board has the authority to contract with the town administrator in this bylaw and under state law, those are provisions pertaining to severance, and the severance provisions should be included within any employment agreement between the select board and the town administrator. My further commentary is the document has been reviewed by town council. Town council does feel that it's important that anything that defines the duties and responsibilities of the town administrator be done in the form of a bylaw and not be simply added on to a job description, which potentially is an alternative. I did have an opportunity to survey some of our area communities to see what they have for town administrator bylaws. And communities that are similar to us, Paxton, Hubbardston, and Orange all have town administrator bylaws. Athol and Ware, although they're a little bit larger than us, have town managers.
And they have a charter, though.
And interesting enough, Hubbardston also has a charter,
Oh, wow.
which I found quite interesting when I went through it. And I believe Rutland has a town administrator bylaw that will be presented to their town meeting in February coming up. And I know that the town of North Brookfield has a search committee, screening committee, and they're not so much accepting applicants, but they're trying to define the position. So it's fairly common that towns are looking to define the duties and responsibilities of their administrator. I do want to add one further comment. So one of the key things that this position, I think, really needs to be involved in, it wasn't mentioned at town meeting, is the audit report that we've had that's done by Powers and Sullivan, the management letter, which is a commentary on internal operations, makes reference to a fraud assessment, that we need to have an individual be responsible for assessing fraud risk in the community. And it makes commentary and it says that this should be a function of management. But it doesn't state that it's a function of the town administrator, and I think it's pretty clear that that is the person who should be looking out for any internal fraud or risk within the organization. To just kind of throw it out there and say that someone in management needs to oversee it. It's been in the last 5 management letters going back to 2018 and nothing has happened. So I fear that without taking the step in terms of creating a bylaw, that comment just continues to go on in perpetuity without being addressed. And this is really the position that should be responsible for undertaking that effort.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have questions? And this will be obviously presented at town meeting. Matt?
I have a few regarding this.
Mhm.
Do you want me to just work through them?
Sure.
Okay. First, in regards to the towns that do have similar bylaws, do you know if they're also representing the same legal counsel, KP Law?
I don't know that.
Okay. Second, I'll go to the beginning, start work through some of these. My first question was, actually, if each of the select board members could express their opinion about this bylaw, however deeply or succinctly you want to do it. if you're
Sure.
willing to do that.
I'd be happy to share my thoughts on this. I think establishing this, base for consistency moving forward is critical. I think there's a lot of areas where there hasn't been consistency. And if we're bringing in, we've had a pattern of turnover with town administrators. Each one is having a new defined position, a new contract, where this is taking some of what that goes into that contract from the select board and putting it into the hands of the town, of the people, defining what the powers and duties are. Still, the compensation is left up to those agreements, but taking those powers and duties, establishing that consistency of what's expected, I think will help reduce that turnover. It's something that we got as feedback from a previous town administrator, that it wasn't always clear what the duties were. And ultimately, my goal in anything is setting up a better town for when my kids are here paying taxes, and have a town administrator running there, that it's still consistent, that the town still has a voice in what the specific role of that town administrator is, that it's not changing dramatically every time there's turnover.
I would certainly concur with some of the comments you've made, and also in understanding that there is a need for clarity and a need for something even stronger than just a job description that can ebb and flow at the whim of a select board. I feel strongly that the town has an obligation to set forth the specifics of what is expected. It's no different than being the superintendent of schools. There's state law that says you shall, you will. It's not the whim of the school committee, who may or may not think it's important to take care of all of the children all of the time. So my concern is to have consistency, to make certain that the person who's assuming the responsibilities has the authority to execute what we're asking them to do, and make it clear at town meeting that this is a very important position that the town must support.
And I would just add to that too, having that consistency, which I think was a common theme there, having that consistency between what everyone in town expects of the town administrator, consistency between what the town administrator expects their job to be, what the select board expects them to be, that adds to the ability to have more accountability. So the town knows what to expect, the select board knows what to expect, so we're all able to keep each other accountable. Otherwise, if there's a description here that's changed from 2 administrators ago, my understanding, if I wasn't on the select board, could be different from what the town administrator's understanding is, and I'm not able to, as a citizen, understand if they're accountable to what was put forward, because it's changed 3 times since the last time I was aware of it. And also, just from the select board's perspective, this is someone that reports to the select board. Having that consistency as there's turnover on the select board as well, allows for more consistent accountability in what they're expected to do.
I don't really have anything more to say. They've said it all, but it seems that, up until this point, we've been loosely guided. And that all has to end. I mean, the way the town operates now reflects that. And my question to you is, it seems that you don't want it, and I'd like to know more about that, because you've expressed this in several different meetings. So I'd like to know why you think it's not a good idea.
Well, from my perspective, the reason I don't think it's necessarily a good idea is things change frequently from state law and other things. They do happen, and not very often do people recognize, oh, I gotta change my bylaw to update a state law requirement now that flows through, and it'll sit there for years without it ever being added in. So that's where the job description, the policy part, not the bylaw part, allows you to update according to those changes. Second, ultimately, anything the town administrator's duty is your duty delegated down to them. So by doing this, the accountability right now is we can remove you and put another one of you in if we don't think you're doing your job right. But if you put this into a bylaw, you can just say, town administrator's job, not mine. And there goes your accountability. That's a perception. I get it, it's just my perspective, I should say.
Well, wouldn't one
But
think
the ultimate truth is, it is, everything that town administrator does, because they're not a town manager, is your responsibility delegated to them. You are the executive highest branch. You own the responsibilities, everything written there. And I think, and I do get it, to say the combination of the three of you have all the education and knowledge, no. That's why we hire the town administrator and we use that, I get that. But I think, from my perspective, I think this is a way of describing a town manager's job, but still calling them the administrator.
Well-
And I don't know if that's technically, maybe it is where the town wants to go, so we'll go before the town, but I just felt that, and there's other things we'll get into where it's really important to make sure if you're gonna do a bylaw like this, to really get it right the first time, otherwise it usually sits there forever. Because nobody wants to go back and clean it up, nobody wants to admit it, whatever the reason, it just doesn't happen, and then it becomes a conflict later. And I got some other concerns with a couple of the things. I don't agree with it, yes, you're right, Mark. But I'm just a voice in the forest, and another tree in the forest,
Well, what
whatever
would
you
you-
wanna call it, voice in the crowd.
I would just say to some of those concerns, as far as, you can, replace someone on the select board if they're not holding the town administrator accountable. That's still the same situation here. It's just defining more clearly what we're holding them accountable on, so it's clearer to everyone. I think the other, there's the employment agreements that you could look at, but you could also find this, just as easily. I think the other aspect then is, as it's changing though, you could, the town could get rid of all of us, put a new select board in, regardless of whether we have this in place. It's just, are we holding them to their task, to their job? That's still our responsibility, to keep them on task, on their job. And this is just defining more specifically what that job is. And I think it allows the town to have more voice in what their job is. So it's not just the select board. The town can come in and just as easily, change what is in here to make it more specific. If the people of the town feel that there's an area that's being neglected that needs to be handled, in a different way by the town administrator, we can all work together to make that change. And that can be even more direct than just getting a different person once every 3 years, or, swapping out that way and hoping that the new select board, goes that way. But have the entire town have that authority to make the changes to this because it's a bylaw.
Other comments, Matt?
Yes. On 70-2D,
First page?
page 2.
No, I think. It's page 1, I think. 70-2.
You say D or G?
D.
D.
70-2D is in David. The last sentence, I recognize, well, let's start with the first. So I do recognize, shall be entrusted with the administration of the town personnel system and personnel policy manual adopted by the select board, including but not limited to personnel policy practices and that run-on sentence. The last sentence though says they shall prepare, maintain, and keep current a classification compensation plan establishing the personnel staffing requirements of each town agency. That does not imply that the select board actually have to approve that plan.
So you would like to have us add an approved classification system?
I would suggest that, because otherwise it is now something where the town administrator isn't accountable to you guys calling out that needs to change, because that would be my recommendation. Going further down the sheet, J, he, she shall assure that full and complete records of financial administrative activities of the town are kept and shall render full reports to the select board at the end of each fiscal year and at such periods as it may reasonably require. I would also put into that, or as required by law or bylaw, because we do have some bylaws that require financial reporting that hasn't been actually done for a long time, or enforced or called out or et cetera. So Then K, she shall have full jurisdiction over rental and use of all town facilities. He shall be responsible for the maintenance and repair of all town facilities. This is a question, but what role, and we have a memorandum of agreement, I believe, with the Library Board of Trustees.
Yes,
I believe, though, that they still have that power, decision-making on use of that building,
they who?
the Board of Trustees, or at least the maintenance and repair, to some degree.
Basically, it's really it's a joint document that allows for collaboration on anything over $5,000. In other words, the BLA could not, take and say, we're just gonna rip the roof off and fix it and so forth, and still hold the town accountable for paying for it. We couldn't do that. As far as who uses the property, we are, as I often say, the Barre Library Association is merely the landlord. Once we accept, okay, that you pay for your heat, you pay for your lights, you pay for stuff, as the town of Barre does, you manage that library. We do not go in there and tell you what your hours are or anything like that. We can't, we don't, as part of that agreement. And the agreement seems to be functioning very well, but, it could be, reviewed. It's probably, 5 or 6 years old now? Maybe
I think
more?
it's longer than that.
Longer than that, yeah. So, I know that, obviously there are issues of concern that I'm sure the board, BLA will bring to our attention when it's timely.
I just
So I think
think
the
we
question-
should think of how that role in the memorandum of agreement and how this is written, because once this gets approved as bylaw, the memorandum of agreement gets thrown out and it's all the town administrative decision.
I think that's the
Or is
question,
it
are we
theirs 'cause
considering,
they still technically own the land?
So we make a
Yes.
reference to it, you're saying?
well, I think we need
It
to
may
better
be
understand, are we considering this a town
exempt
facility?
From this or some other way of managed, that's all I meant.
Okay.
Could I
No, good point.
comment about that paragraph? I remember at the meeting, this paragraph in particular was a bone of contention from the audience. So I've seen that you've, the whole thing got tabled due to wording and language and whatnot, and I see you're addressing, what applies to the school district and all of that, but I remember this paragraph in particular was also of concern. The wording of it was of concern. So rather than avoid, have the possibility of that reoccurring again.
So you're talking about J,
Okay.
Okay.
K, okay, because
Talking about
I think
so
the
I guess
addition
the
that,
question is, should we be listing out specifically which town facilities they have rental jurisdiction over? The town administrator wouldn't be making decisions for someone to rent out the library, for example. But are we considering the library a town facility in this statement, the way it's written?
well, yeah, I think.
I think that's kind of the
Yeah,
question is, where do different things fall here? I mean,
I think we
town
can,
administrator probably wouldn't,
I think we can tweak the language as Matt made some comment, because I think he's right to say there is that MOU that exists, and we expect that is going to exist over a period of time, so it probably should somehow be referenced in there. And I know we have copies of the MOU, and if we can't produce one quickly, I know that the Barre Library Association can do so.
Moving
So,
on to the
Ms.
next, I'm sorry.
Ellen?
I still have a question on that paragraph as well too. So would that also pertain to like the bandstands and the commons?
Right, the
like
town
the
hall,
halls As well as the town hall?
Mhm.
and The senior center as well?
I'm sorry?
The senior center as well?
Yeah, that's the town, yeah.
Okay, I was just curious.
So at that meeting, I don't remember the library being discussed like this, as you brought it up, but I remember the town hall, there was concern about the town hall. Would the new town administrator have the say in denying a group that traditionally goes?
Well, basically, they bring any concern to the board. I mean, and we make judgments about, for example, shall have full jurisdiction over the rental and use of town facilities, and he and she shall be responsible for the maintenance and repair of all town facilities. That means under, obviously, our watchful eye. Right now, if you tell us, you give us the thing, these are the people who are, because we have some, typicals, like the people from the farmer's market. We have people who do the Christmas in Barre. They show up at your office usually and say, here's the paperwork, we're gonna fill in the paperwork, and they comply with a lot of paperwork, quite frankly, to rent and use town facilities. And then we put up our hands dutifully and say, yes, you can rent the facilities.
Now-
It's not a terrible concern of mine, other than I remember it being a concern at last year's meeting.
And the way this is written out, I do wonder if it could be taken to mean that they have full, that they can sign off those rentals without them coming to the select board
Yeah.
first.
We can tweak
I
that.
wonder if we should just take out the first sentence and then just leave it at she shall be responsible for the maintenance and repair of all town facilities unless otherwise blah, blah, blah.
I think we can
In
restructure.
reference to the MOU or to other state.
Well, I think we can restructure it a little bit to make it a little more specific in that he and she shall be responsible for. It sounds like if the roof's bad on the town hall, that they're responsible for figuring the whole thing out and not involving the select board or other boards that would have to, contribute to the work or to the financing of that. So I
Wouldn't it
think
be
we
best
can,
to run it by town council?
we've already run it by
I
town
mean,
council.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
we don't want
Yeah,
to
but
get
a-
hung up again.
No, but after we can get hung up again because somebody might say, well, gee, I don't like the way, we could be here for 15 times, I don't know.
Yeah.
But anything we make in adjustmts tonight, we'll run by town council
Yeah, yeah.
again.
All right.
And just to add to another, town use that other people are used to doing this is, South Berry Common.
Yep.
And that gazebo is, usually the common committee is the ones who determine who uses that.
Mhm.
This is completely rewriting that, and that may also be something that will not go over well.
Same with
Well,
Felton Field.
Well, it may not go over well, but in the end, when, there needs to be considerable efforts to modify or to put money into that common, that ends up on our desk. And so I think that there's a very open and reasonable relationship, and everyone is thrilled to have a common committee that would take the responsibility of managing that, okay, in behalf of the select board. Because I think that's what they do, because they come here and they talk to us about what they're doing, what it costs. They certainly, when we, generate money for bunting and flags and stuff, we dutifully go down there and say, where do you want them hung?
I think the concern is that first sentence almost seems to take away the
Every-
select
yeah.
board's authority to delegate
Yeah.
that
I
authority.
think
Yeah.
that was the problem last
Yeah.
year.
Okay.
So at least the first sentence, if not the paragraph.
So we can do some tweaking of that.
Yeah.
I really thank you for coming, Matt, and talking about this today instead of doing it the next night.
Fine.
Appreciate it.
If you like, I got a few more.
Sure.
on
So
the
far,
next
we're
page,
kind of in,
Paragraph O,
mhm.
I'm just curious, it sounds like this paragraph O is pretty much defining the chief procurement officer role,
Yeah.
Yep.
which is also noted in the paragraph below, so is
Yep.
is it redundant, is it necessary? Just a thought. Because it seems confusing to describe that there, but then later describe it in just by title. Which further down in
Oh,
T
T,
is where
yeah.
you just do it by title.
Mhm. Well, see,
It may be better to take the title and put it back up into O.
Move T up to O. Yeah.
The chief procurement officer whose duties shall,
include.
and then continue. So it doesn't look like you're calling it out in two places, and for me, that would confuse me. I don't know if it confuses others. Q.
I have a question on
Oh,
O,
sorry.
Mhm.
while we're on O. So, this would be taking away, like, the town departments usually purchase their supplies.
No, see, this wouldn't be supply stuff particularly.
Well,
The
it
chief,
says
Yeah.
purchase of all supplies. Is there a way that you could put in, like, the bulk supplies, like?
well, the thing of it is, the chief procurement officer would help to put together how we are going to purchase things. The big things that chief procurement officer is going to be responsible for is all of our bid documents, all of the time when we're soliciting, people to do projects for us, anything that's, to meet all of the state requirements, especially on bid things, equipment, capital projects. this is where that person would shine. This person would also perhaps take the responsibility if we decided to buy in bulk. I know that there are other towns, for example, we could cooperate with and buy all of our paper together with them, or get into lease agreements on, copy machines and that sort of thing. This person is responsible for making sure we meet the requirements of the procurement statutes, 32B, because most of the time, I hate to tell you, but I don't think that happens here.
Okay, so it's not like all supplies, because the way
No.
that it was implied in here as.
Well, technically, this would be part of that procurement process, who would do the purchase orders and that kind of stuff. So that person would be responsible for all of that. But the biggies would be the Ruggles Lane parking lot, procuring that with bid documents and so forth. A roof project, a HVAC project, something like that. That's where this person is really necessary to us. Bids for sand, bids for, the kind of salt and all that kind of stuff that we work with.
And they would be responsible and have the authority to deem things as being surplus
Yes, yes,
over the department head.
yes. The department head would come and say, this is surplus, and then they have to go through
The
a.
department head would say that, though.
Yes.
It wouldn't be the town administrator.
Oh, no. And then,
Say that this is
to,
surplus,
because to get rid of surplus materials, there's a process.
Okay.
So I think the question is, how do we structure this to clarify that so it's not as ambiguous as
Well,
for future generations?
well,
Obviously, we know
well,
the
it's-
intent now, but we need to.
Well, I
to-
think we can look at the Chapter 30B and we can say, okay, it very clearly describes what the procurement officer does.
Right, but, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, to some degree, you do have this already in the bylaw,
Mhm.
and it's the next paragraph I was gonna bring up anyway, which is Q.
Q?
And this is
Did he say
where
Q?
the town
Q.
administrator has the ability to delegate all the responsibilities to pretty much any employee they want to, and how they do it. But I'll read it just to be more clear. It says, "He, she may authorize any subordinate officer or employee to exercise any power or duty which he or she is authorized to perform," for example, paragraph O above, provided, however, that all acts which are performed under any such delegation shall be deemed as if it was his or her act. So in
Yeah,
other words,
oh, yeah.
I will delegate this to the town clerk to go buy her own stuff. But she'll do it according to this policy, which hopefully has already been approved by the select board. Then my question on that is, how shall this delegation of duties be assigned or reported? And that usually is via a policy that is probably approved by the board of selectmen, fits into the finance administration policy that says,
Well, it's
this
probably,
is how we do.
it probably already exists.
It may, but the bylaw doesn't say
Yeah.
that, so now they can just delegate without your approval on how they delegate.
Well, some of the stuff is so inconsequential, let's face it. If the chief procurement officer delegates to the town clerk, okay, the efforts to procure the appropriate ballots, okay, that to me is reasonable and shouldn't be any big deal. And I think there is, in that finance document of the towns, that whole thing, there's a lot of information about the appropriate delegation. So we'll have to look at that and see if we can reference back to that, or just tweak the language to make it clear that the ability to procure,
I guess maybe one concern would be that there would be a duplication of procurement and cost.
I don't know what you mean.
Well, if the town clerk was always able to buy the ballots, but now this town administrator sees it as their duty to buy
Oh,
twice as many ballots.
No,
But if we have a purchase order system, that would
yeah.
prevent that from happening.
Yeah,
If we have to.
Right, which we need to
which we talked about
Establish
establishing, yeah.
immediately.
My only recommendation on Q is that somehow you do define that this is based on some form of policy that's approved. Otherwise, what you're saying, I agree, Maureen, your example was reasonable, but it doesn't have to be reasonable for them to delegate
Mhm.
the way you wrote it.
Mhm.
It just has to be something that they want to do, and all of a sudden, even though they may get burned, this gives them so many outs to sit around and just get paid waiting to find out that they did a bad job. They could just say, "Hey, Sandy, that's your job," and do nothing for 6 months while you go through the process of getting them out of the job. So I'm just saying, you
I've,
can have
I've,
that
I've worked
type
with
of
a lot,
person
I've
if you
worked with
don't
a
have
lot
certain
of people
rules
over
written.
my day, and I've never had anybody that bad.
I'm
But
just
we
suggesting
are
things
we are
happen.
building this for the future, not just for our day.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I'm suggesting provide some level of, this is another piece where I get concerned that the autonomy exists because you don't have that role of approving how they delegate.
Okay.
My next thing is paragraph R.
Can I just,
Oh, I'm sorry, Go ahead. I keep doing
I'm
that.
sorry. I just wanted to, look, we're going in order, so I was trying to, I had questions on P, which is the technology. It says, he or she shall be in charge of all technology and software and shall allocate the use thereof among several town agencies. I just have a concern with that because like, my software is specialty software sometimes. So by just lumping this in generalization, I have a problem with that. Because I have like my election equipment, it says all technology, so is that gonna be all my voting machines? Is it gonna be my,
So you'd prefer to say, he or she shall ensure that appropriate technology and software is available to town agencies to perform their duties?
yeah, just as long as it, software except for specialty of department-specific hardware, software. or
Well, I would say, but
by
that
department
ensure that
specific.
appropriate software so that you can perform your duties. I mean, what the fire department has for their technology has to be very specific and ensure that their
Right.
ability to do their job. And the procurement officer obviously has the responsibility to procure what is necessary to complete the jobs of the community.
Right, but this isn't gonna prohibit department heads from getting their own software to do what they need to do for certain things, or use like the state software, like we have like the Ethics Commission software, and then we have, my town government that we use for our open meetings and those types of things. We have, is it gonna take away the flexibility of the department heads to choose those softwares that they use in order to do what they feel?
Well, I mean,
get the job
if the
done.
department head is running the department and everybody acknowledges and, understands that that's the case, what we're saying is, like, the director of technology ensures that appropriate software, da-da-da. Okay, and so if you need something different than the accountant does, obviously, it has to be appropriate to your responsibilities.
Right, but what if there's multiple softwares that can accomplish the same thing? I'll just use this for example. A few years back, they tried to go with a standard software for all town departments. It was a big software program, and it was the building department could log on to it, the planning board could log, but it didn't work well for my department. It added like multiple extra steps to our processes. It just wasn't feasible for my department to be a member of that software. But if this is now a bylaw and the town administrator is saying that we're going with this software because that's the most cost-effective thing that we're gonna do.
So you'd like to-
And whether it works for your department or not, that's what we're using. Here we go. That's what I'm concerned about.
Well,
Because I think that the department heads do have an idea of what works best.
right, and I think that's a conversation that's, regardless of how this goes, is always going to be happening between the town administrator and the department heads. I think, to some extent, though, at the end of the day, the town administrator, their job is to focus as a whole what works best for the town, where each department head is focused on what works best for their department, and then advocating for that to the town administrator. But at the end of the day, that what we go with is needs to be what's best for the town as a whole. And I think it will, to some extent, be on, the department heads to advocate for that, explain why it is better for this department and why that would be better for the town. But we do need to have that overarching perspective as well of what's best for everyone.
And the other question I had too is, I didn't see that included hardware. So should it include hardware as well?
Technology is sort of, but if you would like to put hardware in there, that's fine with me.
Just didn't-
I mean, I think I understand what your concerns are, and we need to structure the bylaw so that it is, that there is inconsistent focus on doing the best for each department, obviously.
Thank you.
Matt, are we at Q?
I'm at paragraph R now.
You're at R, okay.
Where it says, "He shall be responsible to implement and maintain general security and public safety procedures in the municipal center," in parentheses, you write town hall, "and extend review policy." Should we say Henry Woods Building instead of town hall?
A lot of people call this the town hall now, instead of Henry Woods. I'm just saying.
Right, but in the law, it should make, yeah.
I think it should be.
I think
just
it
all
It should be
municipal
accurate
buildings,
to, when you're writing a bylaw,
all muni-
that's
all
my
munis-
recommendation.
All
Right.
municipal buildings.
Agreed.
Yeah, but when we speak to specifically the municipal center, I think we need to make sure we are speaking to the Henry Woods Building.
Yep.
Because we have another building called Town Hall.
Yep.
My next one would be 70-3A. Just to better understand, I'm not quite sure where, okay, I'll just read it and get to the, so I'm not trying to explain where in the middle of the paragraph I'm starting. Temporary absence. The town administrator shall, by letter filed with the select board and a copy filed with the town clerk, designate a qualified town officer or employee to exercise the powers and perform the duties of his office during the temporary absence. During the temporary absence of the town administrator, the select board may not revoke such designation until at least 10 working days have elapsed, whereupon it may designate another qualified town employee, officer or employee to serve as acting town administrator until she shall return and assume their duties. Can someone explain the 10-day waiting period? For example, if somebody's put into that position in 10 days, they can make certain decisions that the Board of Selectmen may not easily be able to back up on, and if they're concerned with that, why do we have to wait 10 days to say, oh, wait, I understand the town administrator said use this person, but we're not comfortable with it. Why do we gotta wait 10 days to make that decision? Do any of you have a good answer for that?
Well, for example, during the temporary absence of the town administrator, it could be as simple as the person is going to a conference. And in the absence of him or her, whatever, they say, you know, I don't know, they say to Sandy, Sandy, you're going to be, for the next 10 days, 5 days, 4 days, in my absence, the town administrator, I'm available by phone, blah, 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 blah. And so I would think it's that simple. There are days when the town administrator is not here, present, and thus, whether it be away on a vacation for a week or whatever, and just can name an individual, okay, just, you know, sign this, and this is gonna come in, this is gonna happen, so, because there has to be somebody to do that. And obviously, we would have at least 10, you know, working days, because I think this really would be concerned about is I'm leaving on my vacation for 2 weeks, say, so for 14 days I'm not available, and I have an expectation that Sandy, as my administrative assistant, is going to function in my behalf by phone and so forth. And that gives her the opportunity to do that. Otherwise, I guess the person would have to come to this board and say, I'm going on vacation, or I have a family emergency, and so on and so forth. So this gives them 10 working days for that. That'd be my expectation about this. I can see why it makes you nervous, for fear that there would be some appointment of a crazy person that, you know, like you say, anything can happen, and something would go afoul. So changing the number of days, I mean, you could put, that this person couldn't designate anybody even for an hour, because in an hour they could make a colossal mistake. So maybe we need to say, okay, does something else make better sense than this? Because people do come and go. I'm guessing when the fire chief is gone for X number of days or weeks, when he's just 2 weeks away, he has, you know, okay, he works with the town administrator to decide who's going to be in charge of whatever during that absence. So,
I think more the question is why that was put in there, why it is that the select board may not revoke such a designation until at least 10 working days have elapsed, and why the select board couldn't revoke it the next day if it
Yeah.
was a poor
So you're saying
choice.
that the select board may revoke, okay?
Or even just if that
Such
they're
a
all taken out, the
designation.
select board may
Second.
designate another qualified town officer or employee, and take out may not revoke such designation until at least 10 working days have elapsed whereupon it, and cross that part out.
Cross that out.
I don't know if there was a particular reason that was part of it, if that's just more of a standard thing from other towns that we've seen before. I don't know if there was a
See-
specific, yeah,
Huh?
Who presented this language?
Well, the, oh,
I did, and it presumes that the selectmen meet every other week, that's the logic of the 10 working days.
okay.
Is this, is there a difference in planned versus unplanned absences?
For this particular section, no. An absence is an absence.
So I suppose, realistically, if it were a terrible appointment without this language in, Maureen could, as the chair, schedule a meeting 48 hours from then, and the select board could appoint someone new if it was necessary.
So you want to take out the second sentence in 73?
Just from where it says may not revoke through whereupon it,
Okay.
I think that would just give more flexibility to make a change if there is some reason. I don't know that, I suspect that would never be an issue, but
you never know.
it's one of those things where you just want to be careful.
Tell me what language you want out again, I'm just want to.
Yep, all right, so I'll start reading, I'll tell you where to.
Yep.
During the temporary absence of the town administrator, the select board, and then cross out, may not revoke such designation until at least 10 working days have elapsed where it, so instead it reads, the select board may designate another qualified town officer or employee to serve as acting town administrator.
Okay.
I mean, it's also possible that the town administrator designates someone who doesn't want that job. And they come to you and say, I don't want this, I can't handle it.
I can't do this for another
But
week.
that's their job for 10 days. You can't even assign someone else because of the way this was written. That's all I'm suggesting is, there are just interesting situations, the person could just have a family issue and say, I can't do this.
I think that's a good place to allow more flexibility for the select board.
I mean, it's gonna be pretty extreme for the select board to want to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's gotta be good reason, you know what I'm saying?
I
I hope
agree
it
with
never
you.
comes up in my lifetime, I'll just leave it at that. Oh, yep.
I just had another question on H.
On H,
Yes.
back, are we going back?
Yeah, I'm going
Yep.
back, I'm sorry. I'll just go back to, it's, what is it, 72H.
H2.
That's what a town administrator does.
He or she shall prepare, propose, and submit the fiscal documents pertaining to the annual operating budget and proposed capital outlay program for all municipal departments. Can that be changed as submitted by all municipal departments? Just for clarification, because generally the department heads do their budgets. And then and over the last few years, we've been bringing it to going over it with the town administrator or finance committee. So the way this reads, it sounds like they're gonna prepare all of our budgets for us.
I think what they mean is prepare for the
I know what they mean,
present.
but it's not
pre-
what
pres-
it says.
Oh, no,
That's what it says.
I disagree with you. He shall prepare, okay, which means type it up, word process it, okay? The proposal obviously comes from the finance committee. And so Jessica, okay, that's the only other town manager or administrator I've ever worked with, basically sat there and prepared all those documents. She didn't create them. She prepared them for presentation at the town meeting. But,
And parts of that preparation are designated
But
out.
she gets all that stuff from us.
well, of course, yeah, you
Yeah.
can't,
All that
yeah.
from her.
It's
And-
from
and
the
that-
budget and finance and from the departments.
Right, and that goes back to the authorized
Paragraph Q.
paragraph Q.
About the ability to
Yeah.
delegate parts of that duty.
So yeah, it's what would be submitted to that person, but ultimately they're the one responsible for it.
Okay, so that process is not changing.
Right, it's not changing that process.
Okay, then I just have two other minor changes, just so that we don't have to change our town. That's section E.
Where are we going now, back?
Yeah, go back to, section E, 3 paragraphs before,
Mm-hmm.
2 paragraphs before. Board of Selectmen should be Selectboard. And then the other small change that I saw was under I, and it says, as he may deem to be necessary or desirable, be he/she.
So we're not gonna change pronouns? I'm just asking.
I'm just saying.
What about I
thought-
ink in my pen here?
I was thinking to change all the he, she's just a they or their.
Yeah.
Only because we're going through the codification process now, and we're just spending $200 and something, $80, just to make everything gender neutral.
Yeah.
For everything, so I didn't know if we want.
Well, I think we could make it gender neutral just to be with your code.
Yeah, that was the only other.
Okay, so we are now on you, Matt, or are we done with?
My final last,
Okay, I'm gonna hold you to
so
it.
I'm going to 70-4, A2.
A2?
Yes. After probationary period, the town administrator shall not be dismissed except for inefficiency, incapacity, conduct unbecoming the office, insubordination, or other cause, nor shall the town administrator be removed without notice and an opportunity to be heard. I think maybe the wording could be changed here, because I believe they should, there are times where certain individuals are removed without notice. We have evidence to say you're doing bad things, you're out.
Oh, absolutely.
You're not allowed to come back to the office, even if it's paid leave.
Yeah.
You are removed
Oh,
from
yeah,
your
well,
duties without notice. And this kind of says you can't do that.
Well, it says,
So I think,
you could put them on paid administrative leave without having that stated in there.
This is specifically for being dismissed.
Well, I think he's talking about,
well, the way the
Agree-
language
agree-
changes after that semicolon goes from dismissed to removed. And I think you may either want to
or removed or
better
dismissed.
clarify how that works. That's just a thought, because
If we just change that removed to dismissed.
Well, I think, we'll let the attorney take a look at that.
I think just, for consistency between those two parts of the sentence, it might be just dismissed in place of removed there. And that clarifies it.
Just to give you the chance to protect yourself
Yeah, makes sense.
in worst case situation.
Yep.
Other than that, I am done. I'll say no more. Thank you.
I don't
Appreciate
believe
that.
it, I don't believe it, I don't believe it. Okay, thank you very much, Matt, for taking that time to show up tonight and to spend time. It really will help us, and, because to do this on town meeting floor would make our moderator less than happy, and he wouldn't be smiling, right? So he's happy. I mean, we may end up with other concerns and comments, but if, we did some good cleanup tonight, and,
Madam Chair?
Yes.
We can, with the moderator's permission, we can modify this and have a document on the table when people come in that they can see what the changes are.
yeah.
And then it can be read consistent with the language of the
You don't need
city.
my permission. You can make whatever motion you want as long as it's within the four corners.
Right, we just want to make sure that people, want to see what the changes are.
Yeah.
Okay.
The motion will not have all of those lined outs, correct?
We'll see.
Um,
No, because we're not.
I'm kidding.
if,
They should not.
just a question here, again, to save us time. My recommendation is, because the warrant included all the language, not just reference to a bylaw, you have to start with the original motion of the original bylaw in the warrant. It's not referencing the paragraph, it's referencing the whole thing, as signed by them. So how can they modify it prior to meeting starting and the article being open?
As long as the moderator finds that the motion fits within the four corners of the warrant article, the motion is in order. It doesn't have to be exactly the words that were in the warrant article, as long as it fits within the four corners. So if it
Okay,
is
so the
essentially
motion
the
you're
same,
suggesting starts with the draft with all the changes, so you don't have to, okay.
exactly.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I always prefer that people move what they actually want to move, and not something else and then immediately amend it.
Right.
I think that's unnecessary and unhelpful.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Ellen?
And when we hand out the warrants, that whole bylaw, Greg, is included in the warrant itself. So I don't think you need separate handouts.
Yeah.
You're just gonna make copies of the warrant with the full text of
Okay.
the bylaw. Unless you're gonna
Well,
That's
no,
where you're
the-
misrepresenting the warrant.
No, the warrant, if you include that text in the booklet, we don't have to put the warrant into the booklet at all. It's a choice that you're making. And I think it may make sense in the booklet to simply have the introductory paragraph, not the entire text that was placed into the warrant. And then also, in the booklet, put the motion that you actually intend to make.
I think it should be the warrant so people can follow along with each article.
I understand that. I'm saying that putting in a very large block of language which has been overcome by events is not helpful to people. So leave out that large block of language and
Still write
instead,
Article 4 in this paragraph, but not all of this.
but not all of that, and then say, here's the suggested motion, and actually lay out the suggested motion, which I'm not going to make you read.
Okay,
I will have them read it on their own.
okay.
So they don't need to see that. They don't have to have that in their possession.
They should
The
have.
voters do not have to have that in their possession prior to.
No, absolutely not. No, if they want it, by the return of service, if they want to go read the warrant, they can go do that right now. It's not our responsibility to provide a warrant to them at the meeting. We usually do, but we don't have to.
Is that different when a warrant article is put on the warrant based on signatures? Because the people signing read it verbatim, and now if you change the wording in it, you now can't change it based on the signature supporting it until you get on the floor, correct? Or am I still misunderstanding how this works? Because
Now, as long
The
as the
proposed
motion,
motions, we had problems with that last time because the proposed motion and then an entirely different motion was read.
it has to be within the four corners of the warrant article.
okay, that's why I was asking.
The important
I didn't
thing
know if
about-
signatures changed that, that's all.
The point of the warrant is to make sure that people know whether the meeting is interesting to them. And so you don't want people to decide, I don't need to go to that meeting because it's not interesting, and then something that's interesting comes up, and vice versa. And so, in order to encourage that, the moderator chooses to allow only motions that fit within what someone might reasonably expect to happen based upon the warrant that was published.
Okay.
One last question on the warrant in general, though, not that particular bylaw. Do we have any information on any of the, I know it wasn't actually put on the agenda, I was a little confused, but any of the financial items?
Yeah, I think we have enough information to tell you, number one, there will be no effort on our part because we have not failed to reach agreement with the police department, so we have no information nor will we be moving or any direction on that. We are still fine tuning the exact cost parameters for the DPW due to some changes in staffing and so forth to actually know what the, three-year cost will be, or at least first year. Other than that, what do we got on there? We've got the Council on Aging. They have kind of a
We,
complex.
financial items?
Yeah, we have some nickel and dime
We
stuff
have
to fix.
some small housekeeping matters that need to be approved, which will be incorporated within the motion under Article 1.
Yeah,
But there's
very small.
small items.
Yeah,
I think I went over those with the board at the last meeting.
okay,
I don't have the information in front of me.
yeah.
They're in the meeting minutes.
Hmm?
They're in the meeting minutes, yeah, that's right.
Thank you.
So unfortunately, we're not gonna have both of the contracts, so we'll have DPW.
We won't have those for town tonight.
Yeah, we'll have the DPW. We will not have the police department, a new contract for that department yet.
will that affect our tax rate?
Oh, a tax, well, we approved the tax rate, at least via the recommendations so far of the assessors. And Jesse, if you'd like to speak to that.
To clarify, so this wasn't an approval of the tax rate
Right.
per se, that can only be done by the Department of Revenue?
Right.
This is just voting on the.
We voted on what we're going to allow for exemptions or not allow for exemptions.
Yes.
Which were standard, we followed the tradition of what has been done in the past. For obvious reasons, our population demographics are pretty much stagnant, so.
So regarding the timelines and the dates of the approval, like he was saying, this was not the approval, because that's the state's job, I
Right.
guess. It's when the state does it that it closes the free cash allocations moving forward. Like, you can still apply free cash up until the state approves the tax rate? Or is it based on what was presented at this meeting?
It's what's presented at this meeting.
Okay.
I would suspect that we have not filed our Schedule A, have we?
So, the documents, the balance sheet has been submitted.
Yeah,
I don't know about Schedule A, but I know the balance sheet, that's what
Yeah,
results in
and-
free cash certification.
yeah. And so without Schedule A, we won't get the official document, right, from the Department of Revenue yet?
No, we do.
Oh, we do?
We
Wow.
do. That's what we have that indicates negative 62,000.
Yeah. So,
And you can't appropriate what you don't have.
right. Well, so moving right along, I think we're ready for I think we're ready to adjourn.
No.
You have some old business?
Council on Aging
Council on-
bylaw.
Oh, yeah, bylaw.
So the Council on Aging bylaw is intended to provide clarity. So you have section 405 of the town code, which is referenced as Council on Aging bylaws, which includes a combination of bylaws that were voted and approved by town meeting and regulations that were approved by the Council on Aging. Unfortunately, the entire document is noted in the code as being a bylaw, which is confusing because a bylaw can only be adopted by town meeting. So the intent of this proposal is to extract those portions of the existing chapter 405 and entitle them as the town administrator bylaws and place them in the town board, committee, and commission section of the town code, which is Article 5, and leave the remaining regulations not in the town code. That is similar to how the Board of Selectmen's administrative and financial policies are handled. It is similar to how the town's personnel handbook is handled, that none of those documents appear within the town code book, and none of those have the force of a bylaw. However, in this instance, because of what I believe is confusion, unfortunate entitlement of calling it a bylaw when in fact they're regulations, it needs to be corrected.
Right.
And that's what this article intends to do. It doesn't create any new language, but what it does is it intends to provide crystal clear clarity of what is actually a bylaw governing the Council on Aging.
And this really bubbled up from the council itself, so I don't expect the council to be in opposition to this. In fact, I would suspect
I
that.
would hope they would be in favor, but, you know, it was interesting when you went through section 405, the level of detail led me to believe that that could not possibly be a bylaw. You'll recall in June, the Board of Selectmen had an article to modify the method of appointment, where previously it stated that council members who appointed recommended to the selectmen only upon nomination of the Council on Aging, and that was changed. But again, how those original language came into being as a bylaw is not really clear, and perhaps Ellen has some additional information that she could provide on that.
The original document, for instance, I'll just give you one example. Their document says that they can make changes to that bylaw anytime they want without going back to town meeting. So now we have a regulation that looks like a bylaw that's in our code book that they don't have changes to it. And then when the select board voted to amend that section, to change it, they actually have the authority to go back and unchange it. Because it's in their bylaw, or in their regulation or whatever. So it was just, and then the boards change so often that when you have new boards that come on, they don't always understand the difference between the regulations and the bylaw and what has to go to town meeting, what doesn't. So I just think it's just, as Greg mentioned, just in the best
Housekeeping.
interest of the town and a housekeeping issue to let them have their policies and adopt them. I did make a suggestion, and that's completely up to the board if you wanted to add that. I think, I'm not really sure why we didn't that didn't get added back in, but the council shall maintain and keep an updated copy of their regulatory policies and further place on file with the director, select board, and town clerk any changes or revisions thereof. If you wanted to add something like that into the bylaw.
I think it's a great idea, Ellen. I don't know why town council took it out.
Yeah,
Town council gave us the most recent draft, but I thought your wording was excellent.
yeah, I think he just didn't, maybe he didn't.
So we're gonna put it in?
Yeah, I think it really, as she stated, really gives clarity that the regulations or the policies shall be on file with the selectmen and the town clerk and with the director, which will avoid future confusion.
Mhm.
And that it gives the board and general public and other places to go to see what those regulations are, and then we can, you know, have up to date, make sure that we're all on the same page.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you, Ellen. Okay, I think we're wrapped up with the warrant, I believe. Is moderator, do you have any other questions or concerns or suggestions for us?
Nope.
We're into
Just your
suggestions
witness.
tonight. We're into suggestions. Okay, Jesse, anything else for us? Okay. Old business, do you have a comment on old business?
Yeah, I was wondering if there was any communications to rectifying the head wall situation.
I haven't heard of any response yet, but Greg, could we look into?
I have something, I just gotta put my finger on it.
Yeah, I reached out to John Chase, and I spoke with him,
Okay, good.
and the chair of the DPW
Commission.
Commission, and let him know the concerns, your concerns, and explain, you know, basically everything that we talked about here, where it'd be a lot, it's an easier fix now than
Mhm.
it will be on down the line.
Yeah.
And he said he will definitely pass it on down, but I don't know.
So there was discussion that night the last meeting I was here, about the possibility of using a contractor.
Right.
Who makes that decision?
Certainly, the DPW commission would tend to make that decision, although I believe with a little more push from the selectmen, we probably could they could make that in-house, quite frankly. They do that all the time. There'd be somebody who, they rent a piece of equipment. We have a specific bid list of what it would cost if Susie Jones used her excavator to do X, what it would cost us per hour. So that is done. It's not like a special program that we'd have to, authorize, hey, let's do this. It is something that is done and is available to us to use. So we're hopeful that we can get some movement down there quickly.
It just takes the heat off them because they are shorthanded.
Very short.
No, I understand that shorthanded,
Yeah.
but nobody takes the initiative to contact a contractor.
I don't know if it's an initiative or they still kind of think and dream, we can get to it. We can
There
get
is
to
some
it.
correspondence here, I read it today.
Okay.
Did you find it, Greg?
Yeah. So, after the last meeting, I did reach out to the DPW director, as the board members had indicated. And he indicated back to me that he didn't see that there was any significant impact or problem at this time, and that the problem that you had addressed was not getting worse. The top stones had moved with heavy rainfall and with significant flooding over the summer. And then he further commented, unfortunately, with no extra money, we don't have the ability to hire outside contractors for projects like that.
Okay.
But I share your concern.
Mm.
What is a minor problem and a minor fix today
Yeah.
will not be a minor fix and a minor problem down the road.
Okay,
if
so at
it's
the
ignored.
same time that he is communicating this to you, he's communicating to me that you're gonna get to it, he's
Mhm.
not sure when.
Mm-hmm.
But also, they're repairing a washout on Gilbert Road in the DCR watershed. It seems to be of a low priority, because nobody lives over beyond that last house on Gilbert Road.
Mm-hmm.
And the washout is considerably further into the watershed. So for some reason that, it was quite an extensive washout, I would say 12, 15 feet deep.
Wow.
And that got filled in the interim time that I was asking for this road that has town residents on.
Well, clearly you've lived there quite some time, and you do realize there's been a change, and it's drastic,
Yeah.
correct?
Well,
Changing what? I'm sorry.
There's been a change of the problem, you know, it's getting worse and worse, and it's,
Well, yes,
right, so, you know.
the road used to get graded every couple of years.
Yeah, yeah.
Hasn't been done
Doesn't,
in
yeah.
like 5 or 6.
Right.
So now, the edges have eroded, we get these heavy rainstorms,
yeah,
it's not a one-time problem, it's,
yeah.
problems start, it gets worse and worse and worse.
Right.
And now it's washing out back of these stones.
Yeah.
I thought the solution, bringing in outside equipment, hired help to do the work when he doesn't have sufficient staffing,
Mhm.
was an easy,
Yeah,
easy
easy fix.
solution.
Make a phone call.
And that's what he said
And
to
if
me.
the funds, I don't understand the argument that the funds aren't there, if you don't, you're suddenly not paying for 2 positions, or in a mechanic's position, doesn't that free up some cash to get problems done?
I would think so. I
I
would
mean,
think so.
shouldn't that be eligible for chapter 90 as well?
It potentially could be, but I think the quicker fix is for the town to undertake it with its own resources,
Yeah.
rather than making an application for chapter 90. But I don't think the work at this time is that major,
It is not.
where it would be that costly.
But as the winter comes, it's gonna be an impossible fix.
So I'm a little confused. Clarify this for me. Now, he said to you that there really is no problem, and he's telling you that he understands there's a problem, and he's gonna get to
You'll
it.
get to it.
There is no immediate problem on his road. That's what I have as a quote.
All right.
But what he told me also was, in the event they tumbled into the brook and plugged the culverts, they'd get right on it. But,
That makes no sense.
Not a good way to do business.
no.
I'm just
I
trying to
wouldn't
figure it out.
think so. And right now, it's, as I mentioned to you on Veterans Day.
Yep.
I have piles of stone 100 feet
Did
from
you're
this,
willing to,
and I'm willing, I've got plenty of stone that can have it all.
Mhm.
You know, if it's not a lot of material, it's a few hours' work.
Greg, maybe you and I can meet with Jason tomorrow, and I know we're gonna meet on some other matters, about 12:30.
I think is a quick solution.
I do too.
Thank you. Thank you all.
I think we're all in here in agreement with you,
Okay,
sir.
thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike.
Have a good night.
Good night, thanks.
All right.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
We have
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to adjourn. The Eagles and the, what is it, Mahomes
Okay, nobody
Chiefs.
can leave.
Oh, is that tonight?
tonight?
That's tonight?
Oh,
You have to sign.
Okay.
it's
Send
just
it all
frustrating
down
when
here.
I'm
I'm a
working
good
on
signer.
a half-mile river recon.